Today I'm going to be reacting to an American's experiences living in Australia. This is his first impressions and any culture shocks he experienced in Australia. That's something I always like to find out about. So let's check out his experience.
Back to that first day in Darwin, we were walking through.
So it's in Darwin. This will be interesting because a lot of the experiences I've heard of is like Sydney and Melbourne. So
going back to that first day in Darwin, we were walking through this field. We were just going to cut through it to go to our next appointment. And we were walking in the middle. All of a sudden, my companion just drops to the ground. I'm like, what the heck? And I look up, and there are these birds just hovering over us. There's about 5 or 6 of them. And they just start sort of dive bombing us.
Really?
And we got our backpacks and we're swinging them over our head and running. We don't even know what's happening. And there are a couple locals that were just sort of laughing at us. And we started talking to them, and they're like, you guys must be not from here. And we're like, yeah, this is our first day here. And he's like, well, those are birds called plovers, and they nest in the fields. And so we were walking right through the middle of their nest, and we had no idea. And if you look up the plover bird on Google, it's Plover. They have these little spikes on their wings. And so they come down and they can sort of spike you in the back of the head or area. And so it was a pretty dangerous situation.
That's
but
what I was going to say. Sounds dangerous.
Idea. So do your research. Don't let it scare you. Just be educated.
What is a plover? I've never heard of that bird. Is it really that dangerous? Is that something that can happen? I've never heard of anybody being attacked by birds like that before. That sounds like some sort of horror movie or something. Has that ever happened to you? Have you seen that bird?
You will really have a struggle understanding what some people are saying, because they speak fast, use very different words, but it is a cool experience for sure. I mean, and they love the American accent. They just think we have the coolest accent. We think they have the coolest accent.
Do you?
It's a really hard accent to pick up. I mean, I came home speaking just like I do now. I had a couple, different words and stuff like that I used. Still do, today from what I learned over there. But I wouldn't hate to burst your bubble, but I wouldn't expect to come home speaking with an Australian accent.
British people who go there seem to pick up the accent a bit more.
Accent to pick up and to sort of change. I mean, they talk completely different than we do, but it's a really cool experience. They're the coolest, friendliest people in the world. I mean, you probably heard that.
That one is true.
Which is true. And they're the funniest people as well. Holy cow. Almost all of them are just super witty, and they're not afraid to say something that might offend you. And they're going to crack jokes. And I remember laughing a lot over there, and just from everybody that I met, just because they are just comedians. The whole country, I swear, is really funny, really witty, and they're not afraid to say whatever's on their mind.
I think that's true. I've had some friends here in Australia, some colleagues and things, and I feel a very close connection to Australians, because I feel like Scottish people and Australian people have very similar personalities. We love to take the piss out of each other and just like to be a bit more laid back, chilled, have a good time. And it's cool to see people who, Americans go there and find out that. I feel like British and Australian have very similar personalities, but we both have different personalities to Americans and sense of humor also.
Portion sizes, holy cow, are to say whatever's on their mind. Their portion sizes, holy cow, are very small compared to ours. When I first got to Adelaide, they took us to Subway, and it was our first sort of meal for lunch, and I just ordered a typical sub and a drink. Finish my drink, I go back up to refill my drink, and the lady's like, oh, are you gonna pay for that? And I'm like, oh no, I'm just getting a refill. And she's like, you need to pay for that. I'm like, I remember looking at her and being like, you guys don't do free refills here?
I mean, that's a bit presumptive, I think.
That's the case for everyone.
That's what he's used
McDonald's, you name it. You have to pay for every single drink, which is probably a good thing. You know, I ended up honestly losing a little bit of weight out there just because I ate less, a lot less. And it took a while to get used to, for sure, but I mean, it was very beneficial. You will notice a huge difference. Their ice cream is 20 times better than ours. Their chocolate, so much better. They have these things, it's almost like hamburger in terms of like it's available everywhere. It's very quick and easy.
Must be.
But they call them like meat pies.
Yeah.
And they're really good.
I was going to say it's a pie or a sausage roll.
You'll love them. Everybody loves them. Just delicious. There's a ton of stuff to do. Holy cow, from going to wildlife parks to see the kangaroos, the koala bears, all the crazy animals that they have over there, to in Darwin, YouTube, the Jumping Crocodile Cruise. If you go up there, this is a must see. You're in this boat, they're dangling like little slabs of meat over the side, and we're talking, they're not little crocodiles, like they're like 15 feet long crocodiles. Jeez. Just jumping out of the water, almost getting
Have you been there before?
Body out of the water to pick these.
Is it only Darwin that you can do that? Anywhere else?
And no joke, sometimes I could reach out and touch the crocodile. There's lots of beaches. We would go play ultimate frisbee on the beach, or football, or just go walk along the beach, or waterfalls, and really, really cool things to do. If you go to Alice Springs, there's Ayers Rock. Look it up. It's really cool.
Yeah, I've seen that. It looks magnificent.
I think, one of the, really probably one of the coolest places in the world that you can go to. Street fairs type things where they've got food from all over the world, and just go grab some lunch there. Tons and tons and tons of people. And they have these barbecue pits all over the place. Parks, beaches. And you just go, you hit a button, it turns on. And you probably heard a lot about, like, shrimp, sausages, hot dogs. Like that's their thing. And honestly, not one time did I ever have shrimp on the Barbie. So over there. So I don't know where that came from.
I think people told me that was just an advert in the 80s, was
it? We did barbecue a ton, but we did a lot of touch rugby. Holy cow, that's a fun sport. They play it all over. Rugby is just so popular there. Cricket, Aussie rules football. So we'd do that too. We'd play that. Cricket, not so much. It's just like a very slow, like baseball. So if baseball's already too slow for you, and cricket's going to be tough.
This to the cricket fans, though.
The other sports, Aussie rules and rugby, they're fun. Holy cow, they're a good time, and they're pretty passionate about their sports over there. So in general,
I think that's why Australians have such a great quality of life. There's so many outdoor activities, whether it's the nature, whether it's all the sports, whether it's the outdoor barbecues, so many things. It's like almost like you shouldn't be in the house at any point. There's just so much to do outside, and I really think that adds to like how great people's lives are and how fit and healthy people in Australia are as well.
I really did feel pretty safe over there. A lot of their crimes are typical robberies and stuff like that, but in general I felt really, really safe. We did, unfortunately, in my area have a break-in. I was with my companion. I'm a very deep sleeper, so I slept through the whole thing, but someone did break into our apartment. There's a whole bunch of chaos, but nothing bad happened, thank goodness.
Is Darwin any worse than anywhere else for crime?
The typical stuff that you do, and but in general, I feel like I felt pretty safe and not really ever in any dangerous situations, thank goodness. Adelaide, Darwin, and Alice Springs are three completely different worlds. Adelaide is hot and dry, and it gets a little bit of cold in their winter, so their seasons are flopped. Christmas is the hottest day of the year. July 4th is pretty cold. So it's a little weird to have that hot Christmas or have the different seasons that are changed. Alice Springs is almost it's same. It's very dry. It's a lot of red rock, red dirt, the red rock, the red sand all over the place. It is a different world. And then Darwin is extremely tropical. They have 2 seasons. They have the wet season and the dry season. That's it.
That's the same as here in Malaysia for sure.
It will rain every single day. And if you're from Utah or a drier climate, you don't know what rain is until you've been to Darwin. And
come to Kuala Lumpur, see the rain here,
so man. Wet. I can remember my shoes just being wet every day, just because the air is humid. It's so hard to get stuff to dry. I can remember me and my companion were on our bikes, and this was my first day in Darwin. And it rains during the wet season. It rains every day, but we didn't know that. I mean, we both were actually new, and we heard this sound. We're like, "What the heck is that sound?" And we're just sitting on our bikes, and you can hear the rain coming before it even gets to you. I mean, that's how hard it rains. And it started pouring on us. Luckily, there are bus stops all over the place that are covered. And
it's funny you say there are bus stops that are covered, and you take that sort of thing for granted when you live in a country that rains so much that every bus stop is covered. But to hear someone from America say that too is quite interesting. But it's interesting to hear experiences, as I mentioned, from different places: Darwin, Adelaide, Alice Springs, places I've not really heard many people talk about before with regards to watching videos like this. So if you're from any of those places or visited, tell me how they really differ from the rest of Australia. Obviously the weather differs in Darwin because it's so far north and more tropical, but that might be more suitable for me coming from Malaysia to ease myself in. But that's Australia is so big with such diverse weather and climate. It's interesting to hear this side of things as well.
And so those will be your go-to spots if you get up in Darwin. You'll cruise your bike or run to the bus stop. Usually it'll rain for 10 or 15 minutes and it goes away. But yeah, it's 3 different worlds. It's really cool. If you go to either of them, you will have a very different experience. And they are all have their positive aspects about them for sure. Very hot in all 3 places, at least in the summer. Hot and humid up in Darwin, hot and dry the other 2 places. So one of the things I thought that, when I got off the plane, I thought I was going to see kangaroos, in the front yards of people's houses. Really is not the case. I mean, they're pretty much like deer, You'll see them, out in the open fields. If you're way out in the middle of nowhere, you'll see them. Unfortunately, they've gotten hit by cars and stuff like that crossing the road. But the main place you'll see them is in the zoo. So you have the chance to go to some wildlife parks where they just sort of hop around. They don't keep them in little enclosures, which is really nice. You can go feed them and you can pet them and all that stuff. But yeah, don't expect to see just kangaroos all over the place because that's really not the case. Do your research on poisonous bugs, just different things in Australia. That's something I did not do. And when I look back on my time there were some experiences, now that I've learned of all the poisonous and dangerous things that Australia has, I am blown away that I did not get bitten by a snake or, crocodiles or whatever, because there are so many different things. And really I was sort of clueless to that and sort of learned as I went. So don't let us scare you, obviously. In Darwin, they have saltwater crocodiles and
the big boys, man. Those things are insane.
They're one of the most aggressive animals in the world. And you'll see all the time on headlines of the newspaper of crocodile attacks and stuff like that. And
is that very common in Darwin?
I was just sort of ignorant to it. I can remember we had these little hand fishing reels. It was around like a little spool, and one of them, we just went off the side of this little river that ran into the beach, and we were right there on the sand just fishing. So many times there have been crocodile attacks or dogs getting, or kangaroos or whatever. And man, I just think about how lucky I was and how it's important to know what your dangers are. Obviously, don't let that deter you or anything like that, but just, educate yourself. I mean, they even have poisonous fish. They have obviously a lot of snakes, a lot of spiders. A lot of their shopping centers they have, you imagine, our shopping mall, but having a Walmart attached to it or a Target attached to it. So you go to one place, you can get everything done, which is really nice.
I think that's the same as the UK. We have have our supermarkets attached to malls, and the same in here in Malaysia. Usually the supermarkets are within the malls, like I've showed you on the video when I went to buy Vegemite and stuff like that. I think it just makes life easier that everything's in one place. But tell me what you think about his experiences. Very different to someone in Darwin and Adelaide and these different things. So if you know of any other videos that are showing life in other places, even smaller towns in Australia, I'd love to see those experiences too. Tell me what you think about his experience and living in those places yourself. Thanks.